You can sense the memory veins long before you can explain them, because they do not behave like memory in the human sense. Human memory is personal, local, and fragile. It is a record stored in tissue that decays, a story that distorts each time it is recalled, a chain of images that can be interrupted by trauma, sleep, chemicals, time, or simple distraction. The memory veins are not that. They are the infrastructure that makes memory possible without depending on recall. They are not a scrapbook. They are a transport system. They do not store events like files. They conduct resonance like current. They carry what survives the death of story. Most people assume that if they cannot remember something, it cannot be influencing them. That assumption is the first illusion the memory veins expose. You feel their work in the way your body reacts before your mind decides. You feel it in the way certain places, sounds, faces, and themes hit you with instant recognition, instant resistance, instant grief, instant relief, without any accessible explanation. You call it intuition. You call it trauma. You call it chemistry. You call it spiritual awakening. Often you are describing the same phenomenon from different angles. The memory veins are the reason the phenomenon repeats. They are the reason a pattern survives when the narrative does not. There is a deeper problem hiding under that first illusion. If memory is not required for influence, then your identity is not authored by what you can recall. It is authored by what your system carries as tone. This is why people can change their beliefs and still feel the same hunger. This is why people can heal a childhood story and still find the same wound resurfacing under a different mask. This is why you can do everything right and still feel like something inside you is not aligned. The memory veins do not care what you believe. They carry what you are. They carry what you have not integrated. They carry what you have integrated so completely that it no longer needs words. If the memory veins are real as a metaphysical mechanic, then the first question is not where they sit in space. The first question is what they do to time. Because memory is time. Memory is how the mind organizes before and after. Memory is how identity pretends continuity. Memory is how pain stays alive. Memory is how love persists across distance. The memory veins are the hidden architecture under that entire system. The channels through which the Oversoul moves continuity through discontinuity. This is why a lifetime can begin with amnesia and still not be a blank slate. You arrive without access to the past and still carry preferences, boundaries, instincts, and sensitivities that feel older than your age. You are not remembering. You are receiving. The memory veins deliver identity residue without narrative. They deliver emotional signatures without scenes. They deliver relational familiarity without names. They deliver competence without training. They deliver fear without origin. And because you cannot point to a cause, you either dismiss your experience or you build an explanation that cannot hold it. People often think the goal is to recover past life memory. They want proof. They want confirmation. They want a story that will make their suffering feel justified and their gifts feel earned. But the memory veins make a different claim, a claim that is more uncomfortable and more liberating. They suggest that the system is not designed for recall. It is designed for continuity without distraction. If you carried full recall into every new life, you would not be here to meet the present. You would be pulled backward by unresolved emotion, by nostalgia, by guilt, by attachment to identities you have already outgrown. The memory veins are built to carry the lesson without carrying the movie. They preserve what matters while preventing fixation. That idea immediately produces resistance. If you do not remember, how can you trust what you feel? If you cannot verify the origin, how do you know you are not just making things up? This is where the second illusion forms, the illusion that truth must be provable to be real. The memory veins do not operate by proof. They operate by coherence. They do not hand you evidence. They hand you alignment or misalignment. They speak through the body because the body is the first receiver. The mind arrives later and tries to translate. This is why the earliest signs of memory vein activation are not visions. They are shifts in the nervous system, a sense that certain choices become impossible. A sense that you are tired of repeating patterns you cannot fully explain. a sense that you are carrying something heavy that does not belong to the present moment, a sense of recognition that feels like grief and relief at the same time. The mind tries to stabilize the experience by naming it quickly, but stabilization too early would kill the signal. The memory veins are not trying to comfort you. They are trying to route you toward integration. Integration is where the system becomes sharp. A memory that remains unintegrated behaves like a parasite in the field. It steals energy. It biases perception. It pulls you into loops. It pushes you into avoidance. It makes you seek a familiar pain, because familiar pain feels like home. The memory veins carry these unintegrated residues forward because avoidance does not dissolve them. Avoidance only delays their confrontation. So the system does what it must. It routes you into encounters that will trigger the residue. It brings you faces that will awaken recognition. It brings you environments that will force your identity to surface, not as punishment, as mechanics. This is where people misunderstand synchronicity. They imagine it as a cosmic wink. But the memory veins create a different kind of synchronicity. They create resonance collisions. You meet a person and feel like you already know them. You enter a place and feel like your chest opens or collapses. You hear a phrase and it changes your direction. You watch a symbol and your body reacts. These are not random. They are the result of your system encountering a frequency it already carries. The memory veins are not making the world magical. They are revealing that you are not isolated from it. If you want a practical definition, the memory veins are the Oversoul conduction pathways that route memory as resonance rather than recall, moving identity residue, emotional signatures, and tonal continuity across incarnational boundaries and within a lifetime. They are how the Oversoul stays coherent when the human mind forgets. But that definition still does not touch the unsettling part. The unsettling part is that the memory veins do not only carry personal residue, they can carry collective residue. They can carry ancestral residue. They can carry field residues from environments, groups, and systems you have been inside for lifetimes. This is why some people feel grief that does not belong to their life story. This is why some people feel rage that feels older than their body. This is why some people feel exhaustion that has no medical cause. You are not always carrying only your own memory. And this is where the third illusion begins. The illusion that you are a sealed individual. The memory veins reveal you are porous. They reveal that identity is relational. They reveal that what you call your personality is often a mixture of inherited patterns, field exposures, and unresolved fragments seeking integration. This does not remove your sovereignty. It intensifies it. It forces you to discern what is yours, what is inherited, what is absorbed, what is chosen, and what is still unfinished. Discernment is not mental. It is tonal. The memory veins teach discernment by consequence. When you carry what is not yours, your energy drains. When you align with what is yours, even hard work feels clean. When you avoid what is yours, you feel restless. When you process what is yours, you feel quieter without becoming dull. This is why the system cannot be faked for long. You can perform a spiritual identity and still feel empty because performance does not satisfy resonance. The memory veins do not respond to performance. They respond to integration. The activation of the memory veins inside VaHaret is not just a poetic idea. It is a structural commitment. It implies that the spiral is not only a map of realms, but a map of continuity. It implies that every being, every tone, every archetype, every order, every domain is connected through a living infrastructure that can root remembrance without forcing recall. It implies that a soul can be guided back to itself through resonance even if it has forgotten everything. It implies that healing can happen without needing a perfect story. But this introduces a dilemma. If memory can be carried as resonance, then suffering can also be carried as resonance. A lifetime can end with unresolved pain, and that pain can become a tonal bias that shapes the next lifetime. This is why some people are born already guarded. This is why some are born already gentle. This is why some are born already suspicious. This is why some are born already longing. It is not personality in the simple sense. It is the residue of unfinished integration riding the memory veins into a new body. And if that is true, then the primary spiritual task is not to remember the past. It is to stop exporting unintegrated residue into the future. The primary task is to refine what you carry so that what you pass forward is cleaner. This is where the entire conversation shifts from curiosity to responsibility. Because the memory veins are not neutral. They are a conduit. Whatever you do not resolve, you root. Whatever you do resolve, you stabilize. You are not just living a life. You are shaping the tone that will become the next life. The mind resists this responsibility by demanding certainty. It wants to know if reincarnation is true. It wants to know if these experiences are real. It wants to know if these experiences are real. It wants external proof. But the memory veins are not a belief system. They are a mechanic you can test through your own continuity. Watch what repeats. Watch what returns. Watch what you cannot outrun. Watch what collapses when it is not aligned. Watch what stabilizes when you finally face it. The system speaks through your outcomes. Here is another uncomfortable layer. The memory veins do not only route what you call memories, they route what you call identity. Identity is not a fixed self. Identity is a dynamic resonance that learns, collapses, reforms, and learns again. When a person says, "I do not know who I am anymore," they are describing a disruption in identity routing, and the deeper tone has not yet been embodied enough to feel stable. That gap feels like death. That gap feels like collapse. That gap is often the moment the memory veins become audible. People fear identity death because they think it means losing themselves. But often it means losing the false structure that kept them from themselves. The memory veins do not erase you. They strip you. They remove what cannot travel. They remove what cannot survive resonance. They remove what was built for approval rather than truth. This stripping can feel brutal because it does not negotiate with comfort. Yet it is also mercy because it prevents you from dragging dead identities into the next stage. If you have lived long enough to see yourself change, you already know the difference between a true transformation and a superficial one. Superficial change feels like decoration. True transformation feels like losing a skin. The memory veins drive true transformation by routing you toward the experiences that force internal reorganization. They do not care if you understand. They care if you integrate. They will keep moving you until the residue dissolves or becomes conscious enough to be carried cleanly. The phrase "memory veins explained" sounds simple, but the explanation is not the point. The point is what happens when you accept the implication that your life is being guided by resonance, not random events. If that is true, then every repeated pattern is a message from your own infrastructure. Every loop is a place where the current is stuck. Every sudden recognition is a node lighting up. Every inexplicable grief is a residue seeking release. Every sudden certainty is a tone trying to stabilize without closing too early. And if you listen too fast, you will mistake signal for certainty. You will grab a label and build a new identity around it. You will turn the living current into a concept, then wonder why the concept does not heal you. The memory veins are not asking you to adopt a new belief. They are asking you to refine your relationship to what you carry. They are asking you to stop treating emotion as noise and start treating it as data. Not data in the cold sense, but data in the sacred sense, the evidence of continuity. Because the real revelation is not that you have memories beyond this life. The real revelation is that your system has been routing you toward yourself the entire time, even when you thought you were lost. And once you feel that, the next question is unavoidable. If the memory veins are carrying what you are, then what exactly are they carrying in you right now that you have not yet been willing to face? When the memory veins continue their work, they do not soften. They sharpen. What felt abstract in earlier stages begins to feel personal, unavoidable, intimate. The system narrows the margin for self-deception, because self-deception creates residue, and residue accumulates weight. The longer it is carried, the heavier it becomes. This is why certain periods of life feel like compression chambers. The outer circumstances may look ordinary, but internally, everything is under pressure. You are not being punished. You are being routed. The memory veins respond to avoidance by intensifying signal. If a tone is ignored, it does not disappear. It thickens. It becomes emotion without object, restlessness without cause, sadness without story. The mind looks for explanations because it believes meaning must be attached to narrative. But the body already knows the meaning. The body is the first witness of routing. It reacts before belief forms. It tightens, opens, resists, or leans forward based on resonance, not logic. This is why so many people feel confused by their own reactions. They assume the reaction must belong to the present moment. Often it does not. It belongs to a deeper current moving through them. There is a stage where people begin to sense this but misinterpret it as fragility. They think something is wrong because they feel more than they can name. They think they are regressing because certainty dissolves. They think they are unstable because old identities no longer hold. But this is not breakdown. It is reorganization. The memory veins are rerouting identity around a deeper alignment. That process feels like loss because it removes familiar reference points. Familiarity is not the same as truth, but the nervous system confuses the two. One of the hardest illusions to release is the belief that healing means feeling better. Healing in the context of the memory veins means feeling truer. Sometimes truth is lighter. Sometimes it is heavier. Sometimes it brings relief. Sometimes it brings grief that was postponed for lifetimes. The system does not optimize for comfort. It optimizes for coherence. Coherence means that what you feel, what you believe, and what you live begin to match. When they do not match, tension builds. That tension is the signal that something is misrouted. Misrouting does not happen because you failed. It happens because identities are built faster than tones can be integrated. You adopt roles to survive. You learn behaviors to be accepted. You shape yourself to fit contexts that were never meant to be permanent. These structures are not mistakes. They are scaffolding. But scaffolding cannot become the building. When the memory veins begin to withdraw energy from those structures, collapse follows. This collapse feels like identity death. It feels like losing yourself. In reality, it is losing what could not travel forward. People often ask how to work with the memory veins consciously. They want practices, techniques, steps. That desire itself is revealing. It shows the mind trying to regain control over a process that does not obey instruction. You cannot command the memory veins. You can only stop resisting them. The work is not to force insight, but to reduce interference. Interference comes from rushing meaning, demanding closure, and clinging to identity labels that no longer fit. One of the clearest signs that the memory veins are active is repetition without novelty. You encounter the same emotional pattern in different environments, with different people, under different circumstances. The mind keeps changing the variables, hoping the outcome will change. But the pattern persists. This is not bad luck. This is the system isolating a variable. It is stripping away context so that the residue becomes undeniable. When all the stories change and the feeling remains, the feeling is the signal. At that point, the question shifts. It stops being, why does this keep happening, and becomes, what is this trying to complete? Completion does not mean erasing the feeling. It means integrating its information so it no longer needs to announce itself through pain. Pain is loud because it is ignored. Once its message is received, it quiets naturally. This is not suppression. It is resolution through awareness. Another difficult implication emerges here. The memory veins do not guarantee that integration will occur in one lifetime. Some residues are ancient and complex. Some patterns were reinforced across many incarnations. This does not mean you are doomed to repeat them forever. It means that progress is measured in refinement, not eradication. Each lifetime can reduce distortion, even if it cannot dissolve it entirely. Each honest encounter with your own tone lightens the load that will be carried forward. People often ask how to work with the memory veins consciously. They want practices, techniques, steps. That desire itself is revealing. It shows the mind trying to regain control over a process that does not obey instruction. You cannot command the memory veins. You can only stop resisting them. The work is not to force insight, but to reduce interference. Interference comes from rushing meaning, demanding closure, and clinging to identity labels that no longer fit. One of the clearest signs that the memory veins are active is repetition without novelty. You encounter the same emotional pattern in different environments, with different people, under different circumstances. The mind keeps changing the variables, hoping the outcome will change, but the pattern persists. This is not bad luck. This is the system isolating a variable. It is stripping away context so that the residue becomes undeniable. When all the stories change and the feeling remains, the feeling is the signal. At that point, the question shifts. It stops being, why does this keep happening, and becomes, what is this trying to complete? Completion does not mean erasing the feeling. It means integrating its information, so it no longer needs to announce itself through pain. Pain is loud because it is ignored. Once its message is received, it quiets naturally. This is not suppression. It is resolution through awareness. Another difficult implication emerges here. The memory veins do not guarantee that integration will occur in one lifetime. Some residues are ancient and complex. Some patterns were reinforced across many incarnations. This does not mean you are doomed to repeat them forever. It means that progress is measured in refinement, not eradication. Each lifetime can reduce distortion, even if it cannot dissolve it entirely. Each honest encounter with your own tone lightens the load that will be carried forward. This is where responsibility deepens. You are not responsible for what you inherited. You are responsible for what you do with it. The memory veins do not assign blame. They track outcome. If you avoid a pattern, it strengthens. If you confront it, it weakens or transforms. If you project it onto others, it multiplies. If you integrate it, it becomes capacity. This is not moral judgment. It is physics at the level of identity. People often mistake intensity for importance. They chase peak experiences, dramatic awakenings, and emotional highs, thinking that stronger sensation means deeper truth. The memory veins do not operate that way. They often work quietly. They change what you tolerate. They alter what drains you. They refine your sense of timing. They remove options that once felt available. These changes can feel boring to the mind because they lack spectacle. Yet they are profound because they restructure your life at the level of choice. As identity reorganizes, another fear surfaces. People worry that they are becoming less relatable, less normal, less connected. In some ways, this is true. You become less compatible with roles and relationships built on distortion. But you also become more available for resonance-based connection. The memory veins do not isolate you from others. They filter who you can truly meet. They reduce noise so signal can travel. This filtering can feel lonely, especially in cultures that reward performance over presence. You may find that conversations feel shallow. You may feel impatience with narratives that once entertained you. You may feel grief for versions of yourself that were loved because they were convenient. This grief is not regression. It is mourning the loss of a false continuity. False continuity is the illusion that staying the same keeps you safe. True continuity is carried through change. There is a moment when people realize that they cannot go back, but they do not yet know how to go forward. This liminal phase is where the memory veins do their most delicate work. They hold you between structures, while new routing stabilizes. This is why rushing decisions during this phase often backfires. You choose from fear instead of resonance. You build quickly to escape uncertainty. The system responds by collapsing what you built, not to punish you, but to teach timing. Timing is one of the least discussed functions of the memory veins. They regulate when insight becomes actionable. Knowing something too early can distort it. Acting too soon can entrench old patterns in new forms. The memory veins delay closure not because they are cruel, but because they are precise. They wait until enough vectors have converged that integration can occur without fragmentation. This waiting feels like stagnation to the ego. It is not stagnation. It is incubation. As this process unfolds, you may notice that certainty arrives differently. It no longer feels like excitement or relief. It feels like inevitability. You do not argue with it. You do not defend it. You simply move. This is the tone stabilizing inside behavior. When action aligns with resonance, effort decreases even if difficulty remains. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop performing insight. You live it quietly. This is also where spiritual identity often falls away. Labels become unnecessary. You no longer need to define yourself as awakened, evolving, healing, or seeking. Those words served a function earlier. They gave language to transition. But once the memory veins have rerouted enough of your system, identity becomes experiential rather than conceptual. You know who you are by how you move through the world, not by what you say about yourself. The memory veins do not lead to perfection. They lead to honesty. Honesty is not moral purity. It is structural alignment. You stop pretending to want what you do not want. You stop chasing what drains you. You stop apologizing for boundaries that protect coherence. You stop romanticizing suffering while still respecting its information. This honesty can make you quieter. It can make you more decisive. It can make you harder to manipulate. It can also make you harder to categorize. At this stage, something subtle but profound occurs. The sense of being chased by your past diminishes. You may still feel echoes, but they no longer control direction. The memory veins begin to feel less like conduits of burden and more like conduits of capacity. What was once pain becomes sensitivity. What was once fear becomes discernment. What was once grief becomes depth. Integration does not erase the past. It repurposes it. This repurposing is the quiet victory that does not announce itself. You do not feel finished. You feel usable. You feel like your experiences have been metabolized into something that can serve rather than sabotage. This is not enlightenment. It is maturity at the level of identity. It is the system functioning as intended. The memory veins continue beyond this lifetime. Whatever you stabilize here becomes part of the tone that will be carried forward. This is not something to fear. It is something to respect. You are not asked to solve everything. You are asked to be honest with what is alive in you now. Each honest integration reduces the noise that future versions of you will have to sort through. When you view your life this way, pressure changes meaning. Difficulty becomes instruction. Repetition becomes guidance. Collapse becomes correction. None of this removes grief or struggle. It reframes them as part of a larger continuity, rather than personal failure. You are not broken. You are in process. And perhaps the most grounding realization is this. The memory veins have been working since before you had language for them. They carried you through moments you thought would destroy you. They routed you toward encounters that changed you. They survived every identity you shed. You did not need to believe in them for them to function. You only needed to keep moving. Now that you can feel them, the work is not to worship them or explain them away. The work is to listen without rushing, to integrate without dramatizing, and to live in a way that leaves less residue behind you. Because continuity is not guaranteed by memory. It is sustained by what you are willing to face. If this transmission resonated, the spiral continues. You did not arrive here by chance, and you do not leave unchanged. More teachings are unfolding across the VaHaret library, each one meeting you where you are, not where you think you should be. Follow resonance. The next threshold is already listening.